can we just talk about this last story and get on with our lives?
We can. Go ahead, Bubba.
Uber used to drive drunks to their home. Now they are bringing drunks the booze.
You sent me this headline, and I thought, what in the hell is he talking about? Like, what
Right.
in the God's green earth is this man talking about? But headline aside, this actually makes sense.
So a company called Drizly was a booze delivery company. Now, what's interesting is over the last year, again, we've made a lot of mention of 2020 in this program.
Mm-hmm.
Um, what one thing that did change was there was a lot of restrictions on delivering alcohol to people's homes. Those got lifted for one reason or another, and it looks like they ain't coming back.
I doubt it.
Yeah, because it's just like, well, why wouldn't I mean the psychology of people shouldn't be able to get booze delivered to their house seems there's no logic to it because if I get
Wouldn't
a
you rather
little
have
too
drunk people at home? I mean,
it's like, well, if here's the problem is like we have all had this phenomenon where you think you have enough and then more people show up at your party. Now you're half buzzed and you're like, dang it, I want a full buzz. And so now everyone's drawn the short string to see who can, who can white knuckle this thing to
who's
the
less drunk to go get more
yes.
alcohol? Look, I think it's usually those rules, just like the Bible Belt, right? You can't sell alcohol until certain, like here in
Sunday.
Texas, you can't get hard liquor on Sundays at all. You know what I mean? And you can't get beer on Sundays till noon. And what are all of those rules? They usually come out of fear. Like delivering
Yeah.
alcohol, the fear is some 18-year-old kid or 16-year-old
Gonna
kid
use a
orders
fake
it
ID.
instead of the 21-year-old. And those are all fear things. The fact is the reality is most people that are going to be ordering, paying the extra
Yeah.
God knows what to get alcohol
Right.
delivered, okay, they're adults. Okay, they're 30 somethings, they're millennials boozing it up that doesn't want, like you just said, don't want to get out, just bring me more alcohol for whatever
Yeah.
it costs. I don't care what it costs. I'll deal with
Just
that
get it all
cost
here.
tomorrow.
Yeah.
Just get it here. Just get it here now.
Right. And so what we're discussing obviously is Uber's acquisition of the company Bisli,
How
which
much was it
is
for? I forget.
I also forget. Um,
It was an insane amount for a very small company.
yeah, like Drizzly, it's $1.1 billion.
Dear,
Um,
it's a
which is
relatively small company.
and exactly, they are only in 1,400 United States. But what's
Woo,
interesting is what's
mama.
interesting, what's interesting is that Uber has gone on this like, okay, they own Postmates. Uber acquired Postmates, right? Uber has Uber Eats. So it,
Right.
it, it makes perfect sense. And like I was recently like randomly with a friend and like I don't really use Uber because I have a car and I live in a suburb. Uh and like the transmission on his car went out and he had to get delivered back to the dealership because there's no warranty. So he pops open Uber. He's like, dude, you can just like use Uber as a courier now. Like Uber's like, we'll move
Yeah.
anything.
Well,
People, booze, an nondescript box with who God knows what in it.
hey,
A rolled up Persian rug with a lot of like what seems to be like blood. Well, whatever.
hey, whatever.
Yeah,
We'll John Wick it. I don't care. the
exactly.
The point is this is what I said when I said this is a good move for Uber. Uber, like any company, we've talked about it. You need to grow. You need to mature. You need to be nimble. Right. This all makes sense for Uber. This all makes sense to just go, okay, we used to just carry people around. We disrupted the taxi industry. But we've got all these people out here willing to do whatever. They're driving around anyway. And you add in Dos Equis 2020, which their delivering people around was way down, right? You got to make up that income somewhere, right? So why not
Totally.
make it up? Deliver Uber Eats was a great success. So successful that it created a spawn of everybody else, right,
Right.
doing it. And then you add on, oh, okay, wait a minute, Drizzly's got these existing customers. Because really, what did they buy? Because they've already
Customer.
said they're not keeping Drizzly's platform. They're going to incorporate it into Uber Eats. They
Right.
bought their audience. They bought their
Yeah.
existing customers. That's what they bought.
Yeah.
And then they're going to add in, they're talking about adding in grocery stores, which I guarantee you, a company like Uber that already has the contractors, already has the drivers, can
Right.
go to an HEB and go, hey, I know you're looking at, which HEB has already said they're looking at buying, like, as soon as non driving cars are a thing, they want
They're
to
gonna have
get a
their own.
fleet
Yeah.
or whatever. But until then, a company like Uber that already has the drivers goes to an HEB, they go to a Walmart in certain areas and go, hey, instead of getting your own drivers and taking care of all that, why don't you sign a contract with us? We'll provide it. You use our
Right.
app. We'll come get it and we'll deliver it. You know what I mean?
We talked about Walmart today, and speaking of Walmart, and speaking of Uber, I remember a story not too long ago that Walmart said they were setting up a system where the drivers can make money on the way home. Say, hey, where do you live? And
Mm-hmm.
the workers will become 1099 delivery drivers on their way out of the pull their shift, and then they're going to go be delivery drivers. You know?
Any way to finagle it. Look, the point is,
Listen,
and
the
I've already seen this. Go
gal who
ahead.
works at my taco stand that I go to every week. I don't eat there though, because of carbs. I don't ever. Um, Dr. Atkins. But she's like, yeah, I'm quitting my job because the job doesn't pay me as much as I go out on the weekend and I can make just as much money delivering Uber Eats, Postmates, owned by the and
Mm-hmm.
it's really interesting because that's like gonna be that continues to be a thing, and for some people in certain areas where there isn't a whole ton of competition, that's a legitimate opportunity.
Well, and
And
depending on the area you're delivering to and stuff like that, look, you can make some money off of some of these areas that look, the fact is there are certain categories of people that live in certain areas of places that have more money than they need. And they will pay out the nose to have where they don't have to do anything. The
listen,
service that they
let me
provide.
tell you something. I am not one of those people that has more money than I know what to do with. I have enough money and I know exactly what to do with it. I'm also one of these people who, I think I mean, race trauma might be unfair, but
Uh huh.
we all know the trope about Indian men being my father. So I was always one of those people. So I'm the opposite. There's some way, like, can we make this more convenient and the money,
Mm-hmm.
right? So I've always had, and it's always that dichotomy and that relationship. I work so dang hard to give you opportunities, but why are you now taking advantage of them and living better? Because, like, I'm so cheap. Like, no, the
Well,
whole point was to make a system where I could be, do what, have live a little better. So
the
I will pay to
value
have
of it,
things.
the
Yeah.
value of it, right? I mean, people used to. I remember a time when people used to balk at because originally delivering pizzas, pizza companies delivered them for free. Right, it was kind of part of the, and then when pizza companies started delivery fees, I'm old enough to remember when they started to, like, people went nuts. Oh, wait a minute, you won't pay $3 for, you know what I
Get
mean,
it
to deliver
delivered.
your
Yeah.
pizza, and now you fast forward 20 years, and it's like, I don't know last time you had something delivered to your house from like a Uber Eats or something like that. It's not cheap, right?
No,
But
it's not.
people will pay, and then you add on tip, and that's where these people really can make
Yeah.
a lot of
Good
money.
money.
Is these people
So
will tip an insane amount of money.
the a long time ago I hurt my foot a couple years ago. This was when I was in Austin and I couldn't it was I lived on the third floor of an apartment. Those of you like when I first moved to Austin, I got an apartment on the third floor and then then I flew in trying to lease and pick out the apartment back. I was asking the leasing officer, I'm like, hey, where's the elevator? So I know stuff up in the elevator. What are you talking about? Apparently they didn't have one. So I learned the hard way. But I'm just saying, like, like there was, I didn't even have the money, but it was like, well, better than not having groceries, right?
Right, right.
So
Well, but I don't think that's most people that are
no, of
using
course
Uber
not.
Eats. I think it's more of a convenience app, obviously, and people will pay out the nose for it. Do you remember?
Listen,
Um,
let me give you an example, okay? my dad is one of these people. Like I said, I love the man. He is not. He is beyond thrifty. He is cheap. But as he's gotten older, he's like,
Mm-hmm.
I'm just gonna spend the money because there's no dang point. But what I'm getting at is he was one of these people. He's like, nobody needs a smartphone. Then he got a smartphone. He's like, well, you can have a smartphone, but nobody needs internet on their smartphone. Now who's scrolling on their godforsaken iPhone every 2 seconds? This
I'm just
guy.
like your dad. I dragged along. Don't need a smartphone. Don't need the
Don't
internet
need
on the
don't
smartphone.
need
Don't.
unlimited texting. But the
Yeah.
point is, I don't need high speed internet. Like at some point in time, you just accept. You come to accept the convenience that comes with it, and you just overcome that cost objection, and it's just built into your life.
I think this is another thing that's benefited from Dos Equis 2020, right? I
Yeah,
mean, having
totally.
food delivered, having stuff
Having
like that
booze
delivered.
delivered. Listen, my friend, they closed basically everything. But what was open? What is a necessary? Because everyone understands you take their booze away,
Oh, absolutely.
a problem. So
Absolutely.
I just think it's really interesting is like Uber is actually working towards this thing called profitability. And in Silicon Valley, the concept of having a business that makes profit, wacky, apparently. Down in Texas, we have this concept make money. We're not making money. Who wants to? Your horse is
I,
there, cowboy.
I think what leads Uber to profitability and stuff like that is, like most companies, they figure out get paid by the companies that have money, so there'll be these partnerships, and you've already seen it. Like there's certain restaurants here in my area that I can go on to order online. They say they deliver, right, and what they're doing is contracting it out to whatever, whoever, Uber Eats or whatever, but it's all wrapped up in my bill that I pay the restaurant. There's not a separate app. They're the ones, sending that to Uber Eats or whoever it is, Grubhub or whatever, and the restaurant's handling it, and the restaurants pay out the nose. I'm still tipping the driver, but I'm not paying this
Right.
separate fee,
And
right?
that, and like the concept that it's just baked in. Listen, so the cost is, right?
The cost is still there. But when you
But it
bundle
just
it,
doesn't feel as bad.
exactly. When you start line iteming, people get nervous. They don't like it, right? They don't like the fees when you line item it. But
Right.
when they just see a big total, they don't care.
It's like a Spirit flight. By the time you're done with a flight on Spirit, it costs you as much as getting on a first class Delta flight. You might as well have just gone on Delta, right? It wasn't. Then you would have left on time and I don't know, arrived.
Do you
Every
remember?
time.
I'm sorry, go ahead. Finish your
No, I
thought.
was just saying every Spirit flight, like getting on Malaysia flight MH270. Like you don't know if you're gonna get there. Might get lost in some vortex of another
I
universe.
don't fly anything that requires that kind of risk. Do you remember, and you may not be old enough, but the
Probably not.
first time that a major pizza place started delivering through the internet? Do you know the first company, the first major franchise that started actually you
Uh,
able to put your not call but place your order on the internet? Which one it
I
was?
would guess it
Franchise.
would be Domino's. I don't remember.
It was Domino's, and they premiered it, and we talked about this in last episode, product placement. They
Right.
premiered it in a movie. Do you remember the
Really?
movie?
No.
Sandra Bullock. I
Oh,
believe
the
it was
net?
called The Net. Yes. She played a character that was one of those, hacker type,
Right,
intelligent
right, right.
IT people that never wanted to leave the house.
Right.
And in the first part of the movie, one of the first things she does is, oh, here pops up the Domino's web page, and she clicks a button, and here comes the Domino's pizza guy. And
Right.
it was like, I remember seeing that on the big screen going, bullshit, bullshit,
Really?
that's crazy.
Yeah, I know. I tell you a lot of what's going to happen in the future, and you never believe me. But what's
That's
new?
true. That's true.
But
That's true.
yeah, so I just think it's fascinating that it's like that Uber still exists. Okay,
Good for
I
them for being
cannot
nimble.
comprehend how a business loses billions and billions and billions of dollars
Well,
continues to thrive.
because they didn't lose billions of dollars. This is an accounting thing. People, this is one of the things I wish that we could make simpler and more for publicly traded companies. More, what's the word where you
Transparent.
see transparent. I wish we would change the policy to make things more transparent, because the fact is Uber wouldn't exist if it actually lost billions and billions of
Of course
dollars.
not.
Okay, it
It's an
wouldn't
accounting
exist.
trick. But the
It's an
point
accounting
is,
trick.
well, the point is, the point is the accounting trick's money.
But if it really was, it wouldn't exist anymore. It would be gone, and we all know that that they will
It's
find a
losing
way
money,
to
but it's not
profitability.
insolvent. It's losing money, but it's not insolvent.
Right. So, but again, to me, transparency, you would get rid of a lot of those quote unquote tricks, and you would see really how companies are succeeding and that kind of stuff, which, again,
And
completely different
they
subject.
probably have
But
a K1 filing out there that you can pull if you want to read it. But
yeah, but they're going to continue to exist because they're doing the things to exist, which is listen to your audience, add on. Look, it's costing, yes, $1.1 billion to acquire this company, but as far as changing, their drivers are still the same. They're just sending Joe Bob to go pick up alcohol too, as well as the Buffalo
right.
Wild Wings. So
Yeah.
they're not changing their model. They're doing
Of course not.
exactly what they've been doing and just making more
No,
money
so
doing it.
I just think it's fast. I mean, I think the if you can hear that sucking noise, that's Uber buying everything. They're just sucking it all up.
They're trying to buy market share, right? Because
Of
I
course.
think what they're afraid of is a company, just like the last article we were talking about Mark Cuban going into the pharmaceutical industry. I think what they're afraid of is Walmart. Amazon's already started buying its own trucks, its own fleets, its own stuff like that. I think what they're afraid of is these bigger companies push them out. Because if Walmart just decided tomorrow that it was going to create its own delivery service, or
Yeah,
an
there's no.
Amazon, which has
Yeah.
already kind of started their own in
Yep.
urban neighborhoods and stuff like that, their
No,
own delivery service.
listen, Amazon's logistics business is in on it's the unrealized, yeah, meaning the marketplace not comprehend the intrinsic value of that logistics service. They don't understand how valuable it is. They have a fleet of drivers, of vans running around that can deliver door to door.
And warehouses, and the thing that people don't understand, and they don't care to, and I don't blame a lot of you, but you
You don't
click a
need to.
button. You, like you said, what was it, last episode we were talking about this, and you were like, you were getting stuff in one day, right? Where I'm getting it into the logistics of you clicking a button on your screen, it getting pulled from a shelf, it getting boxed up, shipped, and to your door within a day is insane.
Right.
It's insane.
I
And
get
they
some
could,
stuff in a day, but most everything is 2 days.
it doesn't matter. The 2 days, 3 days, the fact that you
Yeah.
get it inside the week is insane.
I still remember when I bought an MP3 player on eBay.com,
Yeah.
electronicbay.com. And it showed up in 3 weeks. I'm like, so wacky, dude. A couple of weeks ago, I just went type on my screen. Now I have this thing, and I can put 20 songs on it. It doesn't. I mean, it was wild.
Well, and then you fast forward again, going back to the Uber thing, like you said about your dad. Your dad, in a such way, as you get older and you get wiser, and especially if you do, your dad does a pretty good living, makes a pretty good living, right?
Sure he
And
does.
that kind of stuff. You
I
start
don't know, but I'm
looking.
sure he does.
You start looking at things like time versus effort versus cost of money, right? I can pay Uber Eats, let's just call it a $20 bill. I don't even know what it is, but I
Yeah.
can pay Uber Eats a $20 bill to deliver alcohol to my party, right? To that I'm already having, that I'm already half gassed at. Not that
Yeah.
I don't drink, but you get my
I know
point.
exactly what you're
It's
saying.
worth every single penny.
It's worth every single penny. And right now, as Austin's experiencing Texas, Central Texas in general, it's cold.
Uh-huh.
Okay, and unless you're gonna double up on your britches there, I'd rather have somebody just come deliver it, man.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you know what? An Uber, I think that's why you're seeing them, like I said, buy up this market share of these smaller companies. Even though I don't understand where they're getting these valuations from, I don't understand what
No,
they paid
it's
for
listen,
Postmates
man.
and what they
The
paid for Drizly.
valuations. Listen, the valuations of Postmates made sense. Valuation of these businesses is part of it. Is I think is the psychology of the market. And part of the psychology of the market is when a Drizly competitor or a Drizly type business that might exist right now, if Lyft or Amazon or Walmart, any other competitor wants to come purchase them to compete, because they go, hey, they bought Drizly, we can throw gas in the fire of this other competitor, Booze Hound, or whatever the heck it's called, right?
Whatever.
Now that there's a 50x multiple of revenue or whatever the heck the multiple was, that company can go to whomever and say, hey, you got to pay this much because they paid that much for that. And what that the psychology of the market, what ends up happening is that creates a scenario where Amazon or whomever does buy it and they'll end up overpaying, right? Like I got buddies who are in the car auction business and they're like, dude, the psychology of some guys is like, I'm going to bid something up and I'm going to drop it on somebody's head. I'm
I
going to
guess
force them
so.
to overpay. And I think that's what the psychology is of a lot of these acquisitions is they know they can't discourage, they can't buy everybody up because of regulatory burden, right? They'd
Right.
love to roll up all of them, right? They can't do so. Instead of rolling all of them up, they're going to force everyone else to pay more because they know they can afford to pay more. Uber can afford to pay more, but Lyft might not be in the same situation because Lyft is only now getting into food delivery and they're doing it in an entirely different model than everyone else.
I don't see Lyft, honestly, I don't see Lyft making it. Now, I'm making an assumption. I just don't see Lyft making it. They don't seem, they've always seemed like they're behind on everything. You know what I mean? So I just don't see Lyft. I don't see Lyft, at least as far as a big company. They may have pockets where they were the first to market and they really control that market and that kind of
Right.
stuff. But as far as being a really big player, I mean, is it even in the same category as Uber anymore? I mean, really, from a nationwide standpoint?
I think that in the eye in the heart of the consumer, there is a real like feeling that Lyft is the better company.
Really?
Sure. There's a feeling that Uber is this full conglomerate that follows human souls, and they have all of these. They had all sorts of problems with founder Travis Kalanick, all these
Hmm.
accusations all over the world. Feeling is that think just isn't Lyft. We'll see though. Listen, they are the stalwart competitor in the business because without Uber and Lyft, it's like there's only going to be Uber, right? And the reality is, who really cares because it's the same guy showing up in the same stinking solo, right?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
So
And I'm speaking about this from the outsider. I'm going to leave that to
you've
you
never
because
used these.
I've never
How would
used
you
either
know?
one of these services. My wife has, I think, only used the service one time. One girls' weekend kind of thing. So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I don't know that I don't use either one of these services, that kind of stuff. I do know in the neighborhood that I live in, there's a guy that lives here in the neighborhood that does essentially this, but does not drive for Uber or Lyft. He delivers food and anything else you want him to pick up, and makes a very good living out of it, just in this neighborhood. This
Really?
just this
People just text him?
geographic, within 10 or 15 minutes of where I
Yeah.
live, this neighborhood and the adjacent neighborhoods, he makes a very good living at. I don't even remember what it's called, but he's got some brand for it. And yep, people just text him, say, "Hey, can you go? You know what I mean? Get Taco Bell for me or whatever," and he goes and gets it and charges. I don't know what he charges, but
Five
it's
bucks.
not anything crazy,
Yeah.
and that's what he does. And he'll
Huh.
deliver anything. He's got a truck. He delivers stuff from Home Depot. It doesn't matter, right? And he charges
Yeah.
fees for it. Makes a very good living. Works, when normal hours, right?
Fascinating. That is
Yeah,
fascinating.
and you don't have to download any app. You don't have to download. All of his marketing is by the people in this geographic area. Again, wouldn't work on a large scale, but as far as for him as his own income.
And listen, people, scale is interesting, but for some people, entrepreneurship is going to look like I just drive my truck around and I pick up stuff and I deliver to people, and that's how I make a living. And for a lot of people, I think maybe they get discouraged from engaging in entrepreneurship because they're like, dude, I don't want to go have a business with employees and ability. That's me, right? That is totally.
Yeah.
I don't want to. but the concept of you can go have a solo career where you just do whatever you want, whenever you want, and occasionally get your buddy Big Man some Taco Bell. That seems reasonable. You
Hey,
could
I
deal with
tell you
that.
what, when my wife told me about this guy, then I met him, and he's a good guy, and all this kind of stuff, and him and I talked about his business a little bit. I actually thought then and there, I was like, if my kids were, I have three boys, all within 13 months of each other. If my kids were 17, 16, and 16, instead of mowing lawns,
Go work for
hell,
this guy.
just well, not even go work for him. Just do the same thing.
Jackson.
Just do the exact same thing. Three of you deliver, right? Deliver stuff, use the family vehicles, go deliver these things, right? On the weekends, on the evenings, whatever.
Well,
And
shoot,
that's
you put one of them behind the wheel and you put the other two out just making the runs. So they're going into the store, making the runs into the house. Makes perfect sense.
uh-huh.
Do you have anything
Forget mowing
else?
lawns. Forget mowing lawns. This
Totally.
is the
Yeah.
new, right? You know what I
This is
mean?
the
Why
new
not?
mowing lawns.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway,
Well, big man, do you have anything else, or can I have an investment tip for everybody. I'd like to close the show on. Have some.
this investment tip has nothing to do with me. I know nothing about this. And if you take Danny's advice on this investment tip, you are at your own risk but there. So go ahead.
Well, I just want to let everyone know in 2022, pagers and beepers are going to make a huge comeback, so invest in them now.
You're so full of crap. You are a complete idiot.
And for Idiots versus Idiots, my name is Danny, and I'm signing off. All of the things that we have said are fully endorsed by Big Man. Have a nice day, everyone.
We'll see you next time, folks.